All right, back in the shop again. It's Friday night, just after dinner here on the East Coast, and this is tape 16 of the 2025 build series. I did a little bit off camera before. I set the push rods, the belt crank, the flat push rod, and the elevator push rod. I set them. I cut them to size there. Now the glue is drying. I got them locked in place. Use a hardwood block here that's cut at the height to hold it in neutral, and the same thing for the stab, held perfectly in alignment neutral. And it's drying now. So next up is to mount the motor here. All right. So I got is a piece of G10. And what I got is a mock motor. This motor is actually epoxy together, so it doesn't move. It holds it in perfect alignment, no flexibility. And I use this to set to mount the motor mount, to glue it in place, set the incidence. So just gonna bolt it up now. Tonight will be a pretty quick video, I think. A lot of glue drying. I really don't like to touch anything when the stuff is drying. So we'll get the motor set tonight, and we'll let it dry overnight. And tomorrow we should be ready to set the two fuse halves together. I'll show you how you do that, and then once the fuse halves are together, we'll set the stab. It's a little tight. So the one thing that I would recommend to anybody building is have good alignment jigs where you're able to hold things in place. The first few that I built, I was using blocks of wood, pieces of foam I would cut. I would kind of jig it up and hope it didn't move. And I've had much more success with planes that, right off the bat were very close. Didn't have any big trim issues, no misalignments or warps. Really made a huge deal when it came to trimming it. Okay. So I got that knocked up on here, and what I'll do is I'll take the spinner back plate and I push it all the way on here. And I have this, what I call a motor mount fixture, has several holes in it for basic different planes heights. Got some centerline marks in it, but it's held at a perfect 90. When I glued it together, I really made sure that it stayed at a perfect 90. And if you think about it, you got the wing center lines parallel to the table. And this at 90 will give you perpendicular. So we just got to put it in the right hole. The 3 3/4 one, let me just measure it. Yep, okay. So what I'll do is I set it up in there. And the other thing I did is, you notice, I have marks side, and top, and I'll line that up with this as well. Use the laser here for a second. Just kind of help me get it. Okay. That's pretty close right there. I don't over tighten, I just make it snug. Alright, so the next step is now to set this in the plane. And Alright, we're just going to get it lined up now. Okay. Don't know if I can reach it right into the table or not. Okay, we just can. Perfect. I thought I had it right. Alright, we're just going to lightly clamp this to the table to hold it in place. Okay. Just going to make sure that this is in perfect alignment here. All right. Just checking the fit up to see how it fits around the shell. Looks pretty good. All right. So now, pretty happy with the fit up's pretty close. What I'm gonna do is measure from the trailing edge to the front here, just to give me a good measurement. Where is my ruler? Let's see if this fits behind there. It does. Look at that. All right. So I'm simulating a propeller there. And what I'll do is I'll measure from the trailing edge 22 and just a little more than 3/8. And 5/8. Wow, we got a lot of offset. Okay, so we're gonna move the jig around a little bit to make it better. Just see if I can get this on without pulling it off. Alright, so what I'm doing is making sure it's lined up right through the center hole there. And now we'll measure this. 3/8, and that should be 5/8. Okay, so we got a lot to do. Okay. Right through the middle. .22 and 7/16. Okay, 22, 111. All right, a little more. No, we're gonna go more. Okay. .22 and a half and 22 and 9/16. Okay, that's good right there. Now, what happens when I squeeze this together? Yeah, we're off a little bit here. That's why. I just want to check something. .30 and 1/8. .30 and 5/8. Okay, so that's right. It's a 1/2 inch offset right there. So pretty good there. Let me just check back here. 13 and a little less than a quarter, and 3/16. that's perfectly in the center. All right, now let's see where we're sitting here. $22 and 7/16, 22 and 5/8. A little more than I want. $22 and 7/16, 22 and 9/16, so about an eighth. I would like a little bit less. Okay, almost a half, just shy of a half. Okay, it's a 16th of offset. I like having about a 16th of offset. I can always get more. What I'll do is I'm going to put weights on both sides of this thing so it doesn't move once I'm ready to glue it in place. But I'm pretty happy with that. The line marks up inside. Okay, everything seems to line up pretty good. All right. So I'm pretty happy overall what I got there. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna use a green marker. Just put a mark here. This way when I go to put it back, I know the green mark is where I want it. Okay. Let me just line that up right there. All right. Hold on, I gotta just got found one of them. Okay. What we'll do is we're gonna check everything. Right in the middle of the seam. Right in the middle of the seam. Yep, middle of the seam. Yep, right in the middle. Okay, good. Very good, very good. All right. All right, so next steps is we're going to glue the mount in I'll just show you I glued in, and then just how I lock it in place. Like I said, I'll clamp it down. I have some reference marks, reference mark back there. That's the other thing I just want to mark with. All right. So next steps is the glue. Just looking everything over once to make sure I'm happy with everything. I think it's pretty good. And what I will do is I'll tape this right to it once I get it exactly where I want. All right. Alright, so I like to use this Scotch, this 3M Scotch 420. It's meant to mold fiberglass or carbon parts to wood or metal. Stuff works pretty good. It's got a good working time. Alright, just about ready to come out. And if you, I don't know how well you can see it, but what I did was I cut notches in the fiberglass mount, in the G10 mount. I just cut some little notches with my Dremel tool to get ridges in it so you get better glue adhesion. What I'll do is just run a good bead down here. Just make sure it's coated well. Alright. And now for the fun. So what we'll do is we'll get it line it up nicely. All right, let's get this line back up. Okay, looks good. It's pretty good. All right, let me get the weights. All right, and what we'll do is just gonna run some tape around this just to hold this in place. Now, let's just double check our measurements here. Good, good. Stuff will dry. It's got about 20 minutes working time. It dries a good few hours. So it's pretty good to work with. Let's just make sure the feather is good in there. Okay. 9/16. So we need a little bit of offset here. Let's just check it. 22.5, and this should be 22 9/16. Bingo, right on the money. Okay. Get the other weight. All right, that's pretty much all I'll be doing tonight because it's gonna dry. So once this dries, I'll finish up the controls. They're pretty much set. I just got to lock them in place. Got to oil them up, lock them in. I got to run some Kevlar thread around it. I'll kind of show you that because they're still drying. I glued them about an hour ago. Yeah, still not dry. Okay. So yeah, so tomorrow when this is all dry, we'll finish the controls up. After the controls are all done, we will put the other side of the fuselage half on. Alright, to make sure it's in alignment, get it closed up the way I want. The last thing I will do is glue that in place because I do want the motor mount back in place to kind of lock this thing in. And what I'll do is I will mark the table exactly where this thing sits. So I want to make sure everything's back in place. And once I get the half on, I get the epoxy in. And the epoxy on that seam there. And the 3 back seams. Tomorrow we'll have the other fuselage half on. And I would even say tomorrow night we'll be installing the stab. Permanently. Well, not permanently, but gluing the take-apart hardware in. And I would say pretty much by tomorrow night I have almost a plane. This is kind of the exciting part. This is when they start to come to life and they start to from components to an actual plane. But so far, so good. Pretty happy with it. All right, so that's all I got tonight. So hopefully you guys got something out of it, enjoy it. Again, we should all kind of share these things. There's a million ways to skin this cat, and each one of us can do it differently. But I always suggest do what works for you. So thanks everyone. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. Watch, subscribe, tell your friends.